I'm not even gonna lie to you. This is my second time recording this episode. It wasn't because I said anything wrong. I went outside to record this the other night, and huh, the mosquitoes are coming for me. They love sucking out my blood and my soul. So I'm inside, and I'm doing it again. Here we go. Take two. This is something that I feel like I have dealt with my whole adult life. Maybe you clicked on this video because you relate to it? Question mark. Why are adult friendships so hard? Why are they so hard? I feel like there's friendship all in different areas of your life, and then for some reason, as soon as you become an adult, suddenly it gets more complicated, and it really shouldn't be. So maybe you are struggling with this. Maybe you don't have a ton of adult friendships. Maybe you don't know where to start or why all of a sudden, like, it's happening. But just wanted to preface by saying you are absolutely not alone. I know tons of adults and peers and people who all agree and say that it is really hard to find friends, make friends, maintain friendships. And today I wanted to talk about a few theories as to why I think that is. And maybe this will spark a good conversation into how we can kind of combat that and find a way forward where we make flourishing adult friendships, and we make time for each other, and we prioritize one another's needs. Okay? All right, let's do it. So I will be the first to say that I have some amazing friends in my life. I have just a handful of people that I would call on in a time of need that I know I can text any hour of the day and get some prayer or support or go to their house if I need someone to chat with, and people that I genuinely love and look forward to spending quality time with. I'll also say that my love language is quality time. So if you've ever taken the five love languages test or like read the book, it's something people use for like dating and married couples, but it's really just for anyone. But I think it's like words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, and I'm blanking on the last one. I can't think of it, but whatever it is, it's probably good as well. But all of those are ways that people express love, give love, and I think it's important to kind of know that about yourself, which ones stand out the most to you. And I do think it's different, right? With like a romantic relationship versus platonic friendship, you're not going to probably feel and express love the same exact ways. Maybe, I don't know. For me, I kind of do. Like quality time is the same preferred way I receive love from my husband as it is from my friends. And all the other ones matter. I love, oh, gifts. That's the fifth one. Yes, gifts. I'm really not that great at giving gifts. And as much as I love to like open a present, I feel a lot more loved by somebody carving out the time of their day to hang out with me or text me something or FaceTime me. I love spending quality time and getting to actually connect with somebody face to face or in that way, even if it's not exactly like in the same room. Does that make sense? So before you maybe jump into the how do we make these friendships better, maybe it's a good idea to know the love languages that you receive love and give love the best. And then that might give you a little insight as to why or why not some of your adult friendships are working. Part of this conversation comes from just, I don't know, existing as an adult and realizing how crazy the digital space has gotten. I do think that some of this issue stems from everything being online and the COVID era we came out of about 5 years ago, where we were really forced into this isolated experience. Some people, I think, got back to normal and prioritized friendships again. Other people, I think, just kind of were feeling like, okay, I'll just be separated or this is better for me anyway, kind of thing. But something else kind of strikes me, I don't know, like hits me in a different kind of way when I think about this conversation. About 2 years ago, I was attending a church service. It's not the church that I currently go to or anything like that. And the pastor said something from the stage that caught me a little off guard. While talking about community, the pastor encouraged the congregation not to ask him out to coffee or to expect him to be their friend. which I understand. But then he proceeded to say it's because, I'm not here to be your friend. Like, I'll be your pastor. I'll teach you on Sundays, but like, I don't have time to sit with you one on one and talk to you and get a cup of coffee and catch up and like be a good friend. That's what the congregation is for. Like, you need to find people here that can do that. And on one hand, I applaud the honesty, and I think that's important in the Christian church. And we do see a lot of charismatic church leaders or leaders of different kind of groups jump in, think that they can be the best friend to everybody, overpromise, and kind of burn themselves out on charisma and energy. And then on the inside, they're really, really lacking in their other walks of life, their home life, their social life, and they feel burnout and that they're overpromising to people who really need them when they're not able to like take a step back and set those boundaries and kind of rightfully, engage in the way they need to. So I appreciate the honesty. On the other hand, I feel like hearing that comment specifically from a leader at a church on the pulpit kind of normalizes this attitude of like, well, I don't need your friendship. I already have my friends. I have a clique of friends. We're inseparable. You go find your own kind of thing. I might be reading into it too wrong, but I do think that that's the framework that I was thinking about when I was thinking about making this video, is because a lot of people, pastor, leader, or not, I think operate in that framework these days. A lot of adults that I personally know find some friends, they're close knit with their group, and once they're in, they seal it off. They don't really seem to extend the invitation to new people. They don't seem to really go out of their way to connect with others or connect with them in a way that's actually deep and meaningful. And we kind of get this weird imbalance of seeing folks who have beautiful, meaningful friendships, craving that for ourselves, trying to get it, but maybe having this impasse of not knowing if that's something worth pursuing, if we should just reinvent the wheel. And then I think we all just end up kind of taking a step back and making comfort with our loneliness or watching videos on YouTube to find our friendship. So I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base. Maybe I am way off on my perception of the world. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but if anyone has felt that way or felt like everyone's got a best friend or a circle of friends and you don't, here are my theories as to why, and why, again, making adult friends or making adult friendship work is so dang hard. Theory number one, the obvious one, we're all just too busy. I feel like it is so common to walk around and watch everyone do their lives, and myself included. I have a very busy schedule at times. I'm usually like flying somewhere around the world or working on a weekend, and my schedule's pretty full. However, because I share those parts of my life on the internet, it might look like my schedule's pretty full, but most days, like 335 days of the year, I'm at my house cooking, cleaning, working, sitting on my couch, watching Netflix at the end of the day. Like, I think everyone has that capacity, and the perception can sometimes be that everyone's too busy, or we just assume that everyone's too busy and doesn't want to hang out with us instead of actually going out of our way to ask them if that is actually true. But being too busy is real. Everyone's got lives and schedules, kids, social obligations, church obligations, family obligations, and sometimes life just gets in the way and it can make friendship get pushed further and further down the line of important things. Theory number two, we're all too exhausted for friendship, okay? Sometimes I feel like with the amount of information we're getting shoveled at us every single day on social media and through the 24/7 news cycle and at work, we just have a mental capacity that has been stretched to its fullest extent. And when we come home at the end of the day, maybe you'll have time to like chat with your spouse. Maybe you'll FaceTime a friend if you're single or, you have a little extra time. But I would probably argue that if you've made friends with your coworkers or your peers at work and listened to their life problems, then by the time when you come home, you probably don't have much energy left to call a friend and catch up with them. Am I wrong? I don't know. Are we all too exhausted? Possibly. Theory number three is that we're all spread out too far apart, like geographically, physically. A good example is this. I'm in a small group right now that every single person in the small group lives 20 minutes away from the other person. And we probably live about 45 minutes away from the furthest person, and we are all spread around the like city that we live in. So if I want to, call up a friend from small group or even see if the whole group wants to get together on a random weeknight, it takes quite a lot of coordination to do so. And that's fine. It's just part of life. But it does make it really hard when it's a random Tuesday night. It's 7 p.m. The sunset's going to be in about an hour. Perfect time to grab your buddies, hop on some bikes, and go get ice cream. Except it's really hard for people to drop everything and drive for 20, 30 minutes to me or meet in the middle. And then we have to load up bikes. And then by the time you do that, where you go to park and you have to pay for parking. And there's no centrality to that specific group. Now, again, every friend group is different, but I think the way that people are used to doing life at this point is you find a place to live that's convenient for the things that you need it to be convenient for. And you don't really maybe check in to see if your friends or community or family members are kind of in that same vicinity. Again, everyone's different. I'm maybe just speaking out of my own experience, and all that's okay. But what that can do is either force you to be in a whole new community where you don't have any friendships at all and you have to start from scratch, which then we run into this problem. Making adult friends is hard. Or you just have to plan way further in advance and get used to seeing your current community way less because you live a lot further and it's just harder for everybody. And then, of course, you add in kids and all these other things, and it just piles up and friendship gets pushed further and further away. Theory number 4, just like I mentioned, we fill friendship voids with other things like work, responsibilities, social obligations, kids, etc. I think that this stands true when I've been seeing the term online of like my social battery is low or my social needs have been met or not met for the day. I think we replaced friendship and just the pureness of platonic friends, groups, hangouts with the phrase like social needs. And I don't know if that's exactly beneficial to us because, again, what we can make that feel like is, well, I sat on the subway today and I saw a bunch of people and I talked to some girl in line at the coffee shop, and then I had to like be in public at the library and I talked to the librarian for a little, and then I saw my professor, so I talked to him and then came back home. And by that time, like, social needs were met. Like I talked a little bit today, I saw people, so I'm good. I don't need that close friendship kind of thing. Same thing if you have a family and you have little kiddos. I can't imagine how exhausted you are at the end of the day because your social needs were met, that family need was met. But over time, I'm just wondering what that will do to us when we push away those friends who aren't in our life because they have to be because of work or school obligations. They're not in our life because of happenstance, like being born into the family or we're married to them. But they're in our lives because they choose to be, and there are memory making people and the people we have sleepovers with and the people we confide in. So I'm just wondering if we're doing the wrong thing by saying social battery and social needs instead of actually making a separate category specifically for friendships. Theory number 5, we're not willing to be vulnerable anymore. Yikes. I don't know how many people feel this way, but I feel like I share pretty much whatever needs to be shared in a one-on-one setting. Like I feel like I'm a little bit of an open book online, but truly, like, there's so much that you do not know about me. There's so much that I don't post on the internet. There's boundaries that people don't see. And even though I share quite a lot, there are probably 90% of my life like does not even touch the internet at all. And I think that's fine. I think everyone should have a boundary of like what you're sharing with the world versus what you share with those closer to you. But if someone sits across from me at coffee and asks a question, I will give my honest answer. It is very rare for me to hide information or to not be vulnerable or not willing at least to like start talking about a subject, no matter the genre, no matter if it's something really intimate or really like broad. I am usually the first person to just start talking and answer everybody's questions. However, I know that that vulnerability can take time, and at least I feel like it gets pretty exhausting when you feel like you're the only vulnerable one or the one who's most willing to kind of jump in and like give a little and hope that someone gives in return so that you can kind of build that trust. And so I feel like after time and time again of maybe being vulnerable, being the first person to extend that, hoping that the other person reciprocates, and when they don't, when it kind of gets shut down, or when they just like, okay, chronic oversharer, cuckoo, like I feel like it's very easy to go, okay, well then I'm not gonna do that again. Like I'm not gonna share like that again if people aren't gonna, reciprocate. If it's just a one-sided thing, that's not a friendship. That's a podcast. So I don't know. I feel like the vulnerability needs to be a two-way street for a long-lasting friendship. And I'm just wondering if people are a little too scared or not willing to open themselves up anymore for whatever reason. Maybe it's because they've been burned before, or it's just hard to kind of do that over and over again if it's not being reciprocated. Theory number 6, our perception of ourselves is either too low or too high, so we aren't willing to compromise and find friends right where we're at. Is this real for anyone else? I feel like sometimes you can think of yourself as like, I'm not cool enough to hang out with that person, or I'm not smart enough, or I don't wear the best clothes. Like they are so fashionable and I am not. I'm literally in my Pilates outfit today with cat hair on it. And it's like, it's easy to kind of look at yourself like that, and that can prevent you from going out on a limb and seeing if they want to be friends with you. Or the other thing could be true. Maybe you're like, I'm way too cool to hang out with those people, or I'm in my 30s. I don't need to hang out with a 22-year-old or something like that. It can be really easy to make up these scenarios again about how we think of ourselves and let that stand in the way of pursuing friendship, even if we know deep down that's exactly what we need. Theory number 7, we have outgrown certain friendships and just don't know how to rebuild them or how to rebuild new ones altogether. Bum, bum, bum. I have had so many beautiful friendships in my life. Some of them I'm so blessed to still have in my life. The closest friends that are around are honestly, some of them are long distant, but they're the ones that like know me and see me, and I know them and see them. And it doesn't matter if we spend a lot of time physically together in the same room or location, but we make time for each other. We travel to each other when we can. We pursue relationship. And I'm so, so grateful for that. I've also had friendships over the last, however old I am, 28, over my 28-year span of life where I've had that closeness. And then slowly, for one reason or another, it fades away. And I feel like that's like a really hard thing to grapple with, because you're like, oh, wait, can we get that back, please? Could I have that friendship back, please? But there's also just reality. Sometimes you just simply grow apart from friendships, and there's almost no explaining to it. There's no science to it. You just become different people and move on, and you can wish each other the best and go about your lives. But I think that that does kind of callous you over time. If you've had really close friendships and then for one reason or another they kind of fizzle out, it can kind of make it feel extra draining to, again, open yourself up and, again, prioritize their time, get to know them all over. When you have all this other stuff going on, it can make it really, really hard to figure out, is it worth it to me to be vulnerable again and hoping that this friendship lasts and hoping that I find a really sweet companion out of this, or is it just going to be like, nothing all over again, or the pain all over again? So I think that's another reason why we struggle with adult friendships, maybe just because of our past or what's happened prior. But here's what I want to say, and maybe we'll end on this, because I should probably do like a happier episode with someone who's like winning at adult friendships, and we can give you some actual practicals. But here's what I want to say. I think the risk of putting yourself out there and pursuing friendships, even if you get rejected, I think it's worth it, because that's how everything else works in life. That's how love works in life. That's how job opportunities work. That's how so many beautiful things happen when we just take a little risk. And what's the worst that they could say? No, I don't really have time right now to start a new friendship. Okay, That's fair. Nothing really to do with you. It's fine. But I think it's worth at least trying because I think we are not meant to do life alone. I think we are built for community. I think it's one of the biggest gifts we have. And I think the more and more divided we get in culture, in politics, in areas of the world with wars going on, I think the more and more we need to come together off our screens in real life and find deep and meaningful friendships that we can call upon and agree, disagree, support each other. I think those are the things that will carry us through as a human race. And that will be the most important legacy I think we'll leave behind for the next generation is for them to be able to look at us and say, like, wow, like that group of people, they didn't let the menial stuff like divide them. They didn't let superficial stuff stop them from being in community together. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful gift that will unite so much more than we can realize. Am I crazy? Am I nuts? I'm not sure. Maybe. But if friendships have been hard for you and you were wondering and you stumbled into this video as to why that is, I hope some of these theories maybe have a little add a little traction to your thought. Maybe you can kind of take a step back and go, oh, okay, like it's not me. I'm not the problem. Maybe I am. Maybe there's some self-work we had to do, but odds are you're not the problem. People are busy, stressed, tired, and honestly, probably just exhausted from this ultra digital world where it is hard to know who to trust, how vulnerable to be, and who deserves to take up that extra space, that limited time that you have in your schedule. But I do not want us to tire from trying it to find new friendships, find community, because that is really one of the most beautiful gifts we have, and it's worth it. It is 100% worth it. So let me know if this episode was helpful for you in any way, if you found some of these theories interesting, or if you have your own, drop them in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that jazz so that you can catch the next episode. And maybe I should get someone who's like a friend expert on here so we can give some ideas on how to make friends as an adult. All right. Thanks for watching. Love you all. Bye.